Sony as a brand is not necessarily the most cliche for photographers. I hear about Nikon and Canon so commonly, especially when talking to other photographers. As I've grown into this area of Springfield, I've been getting connected with a few of the local area photographers, and I don't hear Sony very often. So a lot of people have asked me as I've been talking to them, why Sony? And it occurred to me that maybe I should make a video on it. Might be a good idea. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everybody out there on YouTube, wherever you are in the world, whatever time of day it is for you. I hope you are doing well. And like I said, this video we're going to discuss why I chose Sony initially, as well as why I stayed with Sony, because obviously it's not like you're committed fully. You've just spent a lot of money associating yourself with one brand of camera, so you're kind of committed, but you're not. You understand what I'm saying? If you're new here and you haven't already taken a second to bless that subscribe button and the notification bell right next to it, please take a second and do that so you do not miss a video taking us along this journey of me developing myself from an amateur photographer to a professional photographer. And of course, you won't miss the live streams on Friday nights as well at 7 p.m. Central. I'll be multi-streaming, but YouTube is one of the places it heads to. The reason I initially chose Sony, the biggest one, was because of how much I had heard about it in the live streaming space because of its clean HDMI output that you can do straight from within camera. I don't have to do a bunch of third-party applications or do a whole bunch of hocus pocus and wave a magic wand and abracadabra, camera works. No, Sony makes it super easy to do a clean HDMI out. And because I wanted to move on from my Logitech C920 that I had used for a long time as a live broadcaster and increase the ability for my viewers to really see what's going on in my room and not have blown out lighting and all kinds of crazy stuff that I'm sure many of you that have used the C920 before as a webcam, you're very aware of how notoriously bad they are. A couple other things that I really liked about Sony, though, that did kind of seal the deal for me is that they were super cost effective. From what I could see, there were not a lot of really competitive equivalents at the price range that I was initially looking at, which was approximately $700 to $1,000, just to be clear, for a combo of lenses that I wanted, as well as a camera body that could shoot 4K video and had an external mic in. So with all those things in mind, I set out on my journey. I'd heard about Sony, started there, looked at Canon and Nikon, and really Sony, from every review I could find, was killing it for live stream cameras. I also enjoy the diversity of the lenses, although you can kind of find that more and more with all the other brands. From what I understand, I'm more familiar with Sony's diversity, but obviously it's because I chose them. I also really enjoy the accessibility that they have. The mobile app that you can use is very well done, in my opinion. Obviously, there are hiccups with it. It is not flawless by any stretch of the imagination. However, just the ability, something so small as to have a remote essentially built into the app to where I can take a photo without touching the camera. It makes so many long exposures. That makes it so much easier. It also makes it easier to take photos of myself at a semi-professional level. Now, most photographers would tell you you should have somebody else do that, but I'm not quite at the point where I'm comfortable asking other people to do that. Moving on from why I initially chose Sony and into why I've chosen to stay with Sony and grow into the Sony brand, if you will, is because of many things, but the biggest thing is that I can take the same lenses that I'm using on my Sony a6100 and move up in the camera world very easily. I don't have to get a converter. I can literally get use the exact same glass on the next camera when that time comes. And I think that while you can do that with other cameras, you don't maintain all the same features and functionality that Sony has, from what I've been able to gather. I also really enjoy the layout of the menus within Sony's cameras, and I also really enjoy the simplicity of the buttons and dials. There's not a gajillion things like Canon has. I haven't really done a lot with Nikon, but I do have a buddy who shoots Nikon. He loves his Nikon camera, but he has even been thinking about going to Sony for some other reasons. But I will say that I love, as a minimalist, the simplicity of the Sony a6100 specifically, and from what I can tell, moving up into the, I believe, a7R Mark IV and that kind of camera where you're spending thousands of dollars on just the body, you're still getting a relatively simple and easy to use camera and getting incredible shots with it. The final thing that has really kept me with Sony is something that I've realized more and more, again, as I've kind of grown into the local area of photographers. I don't hear Sony used a lot. And for me, that's kind of cool. I always have enjoyed being kind of the odd man out, the guy that doesn't do what everybody else does. And a lot of that is because I like to be different, but there's also a part of me that thinks that if you're not doing what everybody else is doing, there are situations, not all situations, but there are situations where you might actually get to innovate something that they won't get to because they're going with the flow. They're going with the cultural norm. There's a reason that I don't have an iPhone. I have an Android. There's a reason that I chose Sony, likewise, and I don't have a Canon, which is what I imagine the mass majority of photographers use, from what I've been able to gather from talking to folks. If you are a photographer here and you are not a Sony photographer, or if you are a Sony photographer, drop a comment below. Let me know what you shoot with and why you choose to continue with that brand, or why you started. Either of those things I would love to hear and generate conversation in the comments section. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to bless that like button on your way out. And until the next video, this is Bearden for Hope, signing off.